All right, so when we're on the third dimension, especially when we've condensed ourselves in a body, because you gotta remember your feelings, right, and your thoughts, your masculine side, these things is just as alive as you. But the thing is, they experience time and life on a different dimension and a parallel reality that is inside of you. So your feelings is literally like women inside of you, like they represent water, and your men inside of you is like fire, kind of like ideas and things like that that help you structure the world and things of that nature, right? So both your masculine and your feminine, your left brain and your right brain, kind of talk to each other to try to figure out, okay, like how are we gonna do things? And the more you're able to balance your feminine and your masculine, you're able to take these attributes and characteristics and actually manifest them into products, services, and information. Actually, like, so basically you want to balance yourself out. You never want to get lost, because what happens when you get too emotional? You get delusional. You might start crying about something, but it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just that you want to use these energies productively and not get lost in these energies. Same thing with your masculine energy. You might be so masculine, you might be so logical that you forget what it means to be feminine, what it means to have feelings and things like that, right? But whenever you're able to take those two energies, water and fire, which is basically kind of like logic and feelings, right, brain, and things like that, you can kind of create a sword. So when these two energies come together, you kind of condense those particles into air. Because what happens when fire and water interact? It creates air, and air has to do with logic, has to do with communication, information, analyzing, things like that. So when you're balancing these things, you condense these particles, these different energies, the polar shift that you experience on the inside. You're supposed to balance that thing out, and then you create a sword. It's basically the act of balance. You're equalizing energy, and you're actually transmuting energy, and you're not letting things go on an extreme polar shift, so you don't get lost on either sides. You're supposed to use both sides so you can manifest the neutral path, which is kind of like this here, kind of like having the energy of Mercury and things like that, so you can create your own Bible, your own idea of what is good and evil, so you can actually be inconvincible in the seventh, eighth, fourth, fifth dimension, and you can actually ascend reality and things like that. So use these energies for you, and don't let these energies be used against you, because sometimes we can get emotionally possessed, like angry, pissed off, and not understand that we need to actually balance that out with the opposite force. Because what happens when you get extremely angry, extremely pissed off, right? You're gonna act irrationally meaning you've acted without logic, without balancing this thing out, so you can actually make sense out of what you're doing, and you might actually create a situation where other people look at you like, why did you do that for? That makes no sense. Exactly, because you didn't make sense out of how you're thinking and feeling, and you actually created a situation that literally makes no sense. So you're supposed to come off externally as logical, because this is just basically Adam. In the story of Adam and Eve, what happened, right? Eve convinced Adam, the feeling overwhelmed the logic, and told the logic, hey, eat this fruit of desire. And clearly God told you don't eat that fruit of desire, because it's going to bring your own destruction, right? So you got to let your feelings be kind of like organized by your men, and you got to let your men kind of be inspired by your feelings. So these two come to work together, and then you kind of have this balancing sword where you're able to see situations more clearly. And then on the other side, this is internal now. Externally, this can play out as us trying to overwhelm someone with our emotion. And this is kind of like us pushing our influence, our mental properties of alchemy upon them. And you don't really want to do that. You always want to come externally balanced, because what happens when you try to force someone into your point of view? Eventually, they're going to rebel. They're going to like find some way out of the situation, and you're not gonna get a necessarily the best outcome. You're gonna manifest something polarized, because they're gonna get polarized, and it's kind of like them sleeping at the bottom bunk at jail, and you kind of are on top of the top bunk, and you cussing them out, telling them, hey, do this, do this, do that. But no one likes that anyway. So externally, you have to be balanced, and to be externally balanced, you first have to be internally balanced. Real shit.